gets going. There we go. Welcome, everybody. Hello, my name is Karen Cooper. I'm the Director of Financial Aid at Stanford. And if you are here to talk about finances and your Stanford education, then you are in the right place. My colleagues, Ashley Lippert, Eleanor Callado, and I are so excited to have this opportunity to speak with you today. As I said, my name is Karen Cooper. I'm Stanford's Director of Financial Aid, a role that I've been in for about 15 years now. Between the three of us, we know a lot of what goes on at Stanford, and we hope to give you a glimpse of that today. Congratulations on your admission to Stanford. We're so excited for you and excited to welcome you in person to the farm in the fall. Very excited to allow that to happen. So we are going to go through these slides to explain a bit about Stanford's financial aid program and answer common questions about how all of this comes together in future years and with the billing and payment process. We plan to leave plenty of time for questions and answers at the end of the session. You do have the ability to ask questions through the Zoom Q&A feature, and we've got some wonderful staff available to help answer those questions. But don't be offended if we save your questions for the end to answer. As I said, Ashley, Eleanor, and I are pretty experienced with what's going on for this process, and we think that we'll be able to answer most of your questions through our slides. I'd like to start with a brief introduction to the Financial Aid Office. This is where students go to ask questions about financial aid and where staff make decisions about awards. We also help you to manage outside awards, which we will talk about more in this session, and the Federal Work-Study Program, which gives eligible students a slight advantage in finding employment on campus. We hope to have an in-person presence by fall quarter, but for now, we are all working remotely. We have special access for appointments for admits through admit.stanford.edu, or give us a call. We're answering the phones every day. Those are financial aid staff members answering the phones who can also make appointments for you for more in-depth questions when those come up. So we're doing our best to remain available for you through Zoom and over the phone. So where are you in the financial aid process now? Hopefully, you have completed your financial aid application, which consists of 3 pieces: the CSS profile, tax forms submitted through the IDOC or Institutional Documentation Service that you get invited to after you submit the profile, and the free application for federal student aid, or the FAFSA. We delivered your original financial aid offer through your admission portal. All subsequent updates and letters in future years will be made available in Access. Yes, that's Access with an X, as in the axe. It will all make sense soon. We will be mentioning Access, which is found at access.stanford.edu, quite a bit today. That's your student portal where lots of university business is conducted. If you're listening today and think that maybe I should have applied for financial aid, it's not too late for most of you. You may still apply unless you were admitted as an international student without eligibility for aid. It may be late for us to let you know about your eligibility by May 3rd, but your decision to accept the offer of admission does not impact the amount of aid that we're able to award, and we will do our best to get a response to you as soon as possible. At this time, we know that we still have a significant number of revision requests, as well as original applications that were recently submitted in our queues. We're working as quickly as we can to address your issues before May 3rd. Please be assured that we continue to look at requests for revision throughout the year. Accepting the offer of admission does not lock you into a financial aid package for the next 4 years. So we will continue to look at that information. Stanford's financial aid program is need-based, meaning that we are committed to providing funds to cover whatever educational costs that you and your family cannot be reasonably expected to pay. This formula explains how we make decisions in the financial aid office. And this is why we turn conversations about, I need more aid, to, why is the parent contribution too high for your family? This formula is important to us in the financial aid office, but I actually want you to think about another formula. Cost of attendance minus scholarships and grants equals your net cost. This formula is how you should compare financial aid offers from school to school, and happens to be how our award letter is arranged. At the top, you'll find the details of your individual cost of attendance, a listing of all scholarships and grants we're expecting for you, and the resulting net cost. The bottom half of the page shows the calculated parent and student contributions that we use to calculate your eligibility, as well as any loans that you've been offered. You can think of those items as our suggestions for managing the net cost. Now let's talk about each one of those components. This cost of attendance serves to define the maximum amount of aid that can be offered. You'll never see a bill for this amount because it includes both direct costs, those that the university will bill you for, and indirect costs, or expenses that we think you will have in order to be a full participant of a Stanford education. Financial aid considers both kinds of expenses. It is possible that these expenses may change. These are our estimates of your expenses. If, for example, you are billed a different amount for tuition because you need to be enrolled part-time and get permission to do so, your aid will be adjusted to reflect that lower cost of attendance. One detail that I'd like to point out, that student fees allowance that will be 2010 next year includes a mix of mandatory fees for which you will automatically be billed, things like house dues and a technology fee, as well as allowances for things that like course-specific fees that you may see for some lab or engineering courses, for example. If your actual expenses turn out to be significantly higher, you can request more assistance from the financial aid office. The personal expense allowance, the books and supplies allowance, the travel expenses, those are meant to reflect our best estimate of your costs to be a student at Stanford. The next section on the award letter will list the scholarships and grants that are either being offered by Stanford, by federal and state government, or other outside resources. We consider all of those resources to be meeting your need. Net cost is what will need to be paid toward the cost of attendance, not the bill, toward the entire cost of attendance, both direct and indirect costs, after scholarships and grants are applied. In this example, even though we've offered $57,000 of scholarship, there are still $22,000 worth of expenses that the student and family will need to figure out. This parent contribution that you'll find on your award letter is our suggested contribution toward the total cost of attendance for the full year. So again, you'll never see a bill for this precise amount. We use this number to calculate your scholarship eligibility. We have calculated this amount based on all of the information that you provided to us on your CSS profile and FAFSA, as well as tax return information. We use these two income thresholds, $150,000 and $75,000, to help families understand what their expectations would be at Stanford before going through the application process. For families with income less than $75,000, the expected parent contribution is zero. We're not asking them to contribute financially toward any educational costs. For those with income between 75 and 150,000, we've promised at least enough scholarship to cover tuition. For a family right at the $150,000 income level with typical assets for that income, the parent contribution is just under $20,000. And as a result, we will provide enough scholarship to cover tuition. For both of those thresholds, we make that promise only for those who have assets typical for that income level. We consider your reported cash investments, the value of real estate other than your primary home, and business assets in our calculation of net worth. If you think about the parent contribution amount at those two income thresholds on a graph of income and expected parent contribution and draw a line between them, you'll see how contributions from most families appear on this sliding scale. Those at higher income levels still do qualify for aid, typically at lesser amounts depending on their individual situation. Now, this is the first time that I'm going to bring up COVID-19. Obviously, the economic impacts are having a profound impact on some families' ability to contribute toward educational costs. And the information you provided to us just a few short months ago may feel quite out of date right now. Please know that we are committed to working with you over the next 4 years to make Stanford a financial reality for you. That's why we may have asked some of you for more information about your 2020 income or more details about current income. The university has made a commitment to meet the need of all eligible applicants. Accepting your offer of admission does not mean that we will no longer consider adjustments to your aid eligibility, especially as circumstances change in future years. We also expect students to take responsibility for a portion of their cost of attendance. In a typical year, the amount is $5,000, $1,500 from summer earnings, $3,500 from work during the academic year, plus 5% of assets reported in the student's name. In recognition of the challenges students are facing this summer finding employment and our year-round academic calendar for current students this year, the university has made a decision last year to waive the summer earnings expectation for all students, including the incoming frosh, and to replace that expectation with scholarship. If your original financial aid offer included a student contribution expectation, that is the contribution we are expecting from your reported assets. We're planning for a full return to a residential campus in the fall. In a typical year, this is a campus where, as long as students are willing to be flexible in their first year especially, they can find a job on campus regardless of their eligibility for aid. Because the minimum wage for students is almost $16 per hour on campus, students typically earn that $3,500 expectation in 7 to 10 hours of work per week. So we don't think that that is an unattainable goal for you to be able to earn $3,500 to support your total cost of attendance during the time that you're enrolled. Outside awards or private scholarships from foundations, agencies, etc., are another way for students to handle their student responsibility. Typically, those outside scholarships first replace the academic year earnings expectation, then the expected student contribution. This fall, students have a head start because of the student contribution will already be replaced for all of you. If those outside scholarships total more than the student responsibility amount, scholarship from Stanford will be reduced. Another way to think of this is that those outside scholarships cannot be used to replace the expected parent contribution if Stanford scholarship is involved. Students will start reporting their outside scholarships to us starting in mid-May through Access. There's a tool that allows you to do that so that we can properly ensure that those funds are credited to your student account in time for the first bill. It's notable that I've not mentioned student loans until now. Those eligible for federal student aid have eligibility for federal direct student loans. We've offered those loans if we're not able to offer any scholarship funds. Others can be eligible for those funds to help with any expected parent contribution if you're interested in taking on debt. We do not expect students to borrow to meet their need. As a result, 84% of the students who graduated during 1920 had no student debt in their names, and those who did borrow had median indebtedness just under $15,000. This 5,500 number may look familiar to some of you. That's the maximum amount that a first-year student can borrow through the federal direct loan program. As sophomores, the limit goes to 6,500, and then as juniors and seniors, the limit is 7,500 annually. The federal student loan programs have repayment protections that make them a good way to manage educational debt. Stanford participates in the federal student loan programs for both students and parents of dependent students. We also have responsibility for certifying private student loan applications in the financial aid office. I'm not going to go into detail today about the loan programs. Please refer to our website for all of the information and application instructions. We typically begin processing those loan applications in August, and we're happy to discuss your options with you. So you may have noticed that we've given you an award for 1 year, although a typical undergraduate takes 4 years to complete their degree. We do ask you to reapply for aid every year. The priority filing date for returning students is April 30th. You can think of this reapplication process as our annual check-in with you to see if there have been any changes in your family circumstances. If your situation has not changed significantly, you can expect a similar level of scholarship from year to year. I do want to point out the number of siblings in college does have a significant impact on our calculation of the parent contribution. Essentially, we calculate one number for the family and divide it among the siblings in college. If you have 2 family members in college now and will only have 1 in a few years, I like to say, that may mean a significant increase in the parent contribution. I like to say that you don't need to let us know if you win the lottery. We'll figure that out in the next application cycle. However, if things get worse, employment changes, illness, other family changes that impact your financial resources, let us know throughout the year. We can make adjustments when appropriate. And we look forward to working with your families over the next 4 years. So I would now like to turn this session over to Eleanor Callado, Director of Student Financial Services and University Bursar, to talk about the billing and payment process. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Lots of great information. I am so happy to be here with all of you today. Hopefully I can share some good billing and payment information as well. Stanford actually bills on a monthly basis. They're sent as a courtesy to share changes, if any, that are made to the student account. Month to month, students may incur additional charges or make purchases like in-room HDTV cable charges, course fee adjustments, Stanford card plan retail purchases on campus, which we'll actually dive into deeper and talk about in greater detail later on in the presentation. So talking about the timeline of the billing, payment, and aid process, before the academic year even begins in late July, tuition and fees are assessed and are visible on the student account online. Payment can be made at any time, but as a courtesy, Stanford sends a bill that outlines charges, payments, and any aid that is in the account's activity. Autumn term, for example, demonstrates how billing, payments, and aid are applied towards the student's account. The bill is sent in August that outlines charges due and any required payment, then becomes due the following month, around mid-September. Please note, accepted aid will be detailed as anticipated aid on the student account, and this means that the student can expect aid to post at a future disbursement date, but it will not be automatically deducted from total charges due. It's really important to take note of this, to calculate this, so you're not overpaying and can submit payment by the billing due date. If payment should be made before the August bill is sent, the bill will be summarizing just charges and payments at detail, and it can be kept for record keeping. Late September is when anticipated aid is dispersed and posted to the student account. We strongly encourage students to enroll into direct deposit to ensure they receive any excess aid refunds quickly and securely. How to pay. Payments are actually made through our electronic payment portal, or ePay in short. Students can pay in self-service, or they can provision an authorized user to be able to view and pay bills, as well as receive email notifications. There are a number of payment options as well that are available for students and their families. We have electronic check, or e-check. This is actually our most used payment method. It's also probably the quickest way to pay. We also have Flywire and Western Union, domestic and international wire processing via third party. And although paper checks and wire transfers take the longest amount of time, we have those options as well. In addition to those payment options, students and families who wish to pay over time have the ability to do so using a prepayment installment plan. Our autumn term, for example, if you work backwards from that September 15th due date for the August bill, 3 installments starting in July, when those enrollment charges hit the student account, will be due each month, building up to the September bill due date. This allows for smaller payments over time, as opposed to one lump sum in September when the autumn bill becomes due. You can see with this chart that there are prepayment installment plans available for winter and spring too. At the end of this presentation, we'll be sharing the website address so you can read about this to see if it's the best option for you. I would like to turn the session over to Ashley Lippert, Director of the Student Services Center, to talk about the Stanford Card Plan, Cardinal Health Insurance, and our financial literacy program. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Al. I'm excited to meet you all come autumn quarter, but I wanted to start off by talking to you a little bit about our Stanford Card Plan. The Stanford Card Plan acts as a line of credit with a $1,000 limit. Students can use it for purchases at most on-campus locations like our bookstore, food shops, and you can also use it for printing and copying. The amount used in a given month will then be reflected on the subsequent monthly bill. The average student uses about $400 a quarter. Stanford Health Insurance. It's really important to remind all of you that all students who are admitted are automatically enrolled into Stanford's health insurance program, Cardinal Care. This is offered annually beginning on September 1st of each year and costs $6,192 for the year. Families who wish to have this insurance fee waived because they have their own insurance plans can do so no later than September 15th for our domestic students and August 15th for our international students. Please note that this is not the same as the campus health service fee, which is a quarterly charge you will see on your bill. If you want more information on health plans, please visit Vaden Health Center website at vaden.stanford.edu. So I wanted to highlight for you a really great program we offer here at Stanford called Mind Over Money. Mind Over Money is Stanford's financial wellness program that aims to equip students with the knowledge and skills to make informed financial decisions, to democratize access to information and resources for all students, and to cultivate a culture of healthy financial behaviors at Stanford. Mind Over Money offers interactive workshops throughout the year that explore concepts and cultivate skills to help students build healthier financial habits. Mind Over Money staff teach a 1-unit academic course, Wellness 183, Financial Wellness for a Healthy Long Life. Also, all students can meet with a one-on-one financial coach for free. These coaches are mostly Stanford alumni who are excited to support students in attaining their financial goals, whether that's to figure out a feasible plan to get out of credit card debt or to figure out how to best plan for long-term investing as soon as they graduate. Mind Over Money's website, mindovermoney.stanford.edu, is the portal to all the program's resources, including personal financial learning modules, videos, and financial planning templates, as well as access to the coaching program and a listing of upcoming events. So now I just wanted to go over some important takeaways from today's session. One important thing for you to know is that authorized users or students can designate an authorized user so that this person can view their student financial information. The Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, or FERPA for short, makes our students responsible for their own student accounts. Students can add authorized users to access their financial records if they choose to do so. Students will learn how to do this over the summer. Number 2, please remember to waive your health insurance if you already have adequate coverage. Number 3, students should enroll in direct deposit to ensure any expected financial aid refunds are issued quickly and securely. You will also learn how to do this over the summer. And finally, please work closely with financial aid if your family's financial situation changes at any time. And finally, here's a list of important websites that we've referenced throughout the presentation. This presentation will be made available to you through the financial aid website. I'm going to leave this information here while we transition to answering some of your questions.
Thank you, Ashley, and Eleanor too. Come on back on. We're all here to answer your questions. As you're getting your questions ready, and you can just type them in the Q&A. Let me just thank you all for being here this afternoon. I know there is a lot going on in the world today. The pressure of the announcement of the verdicts in the Derek Chauvin trial has been weighing on all of us. And so I really thank you for taking the time to be here today. And we've recorded the session for those who aren't able to make it. So I hope that this helpful information will be available for everyone. Okay, so I see the first question that's coming up for me is to talk about those personal expenses and what we think they entail. So in the cost of attendance, you saw, here, let me stop sharing so you can see the three of us a little more easily. So in the slide where I was talking about the cost of attendance, I talked about that $2010 allowance for personal expenses for this academic year. And we actually surveyed current students a few years ago when times were still a little more normal. And we asked them, what are their typical expenses for things like, basic supports? What do they spend at the drugstore? What are, their toiletries, things that they need in their rooms, food outside of the meal plan. We think you deserve to go to an occasional movie every once in a while. So those kinds of just the personal expenses for being around campus. Sporting events, a lot of those events are free. So all of those things are considered in the personal expense allowance. It's just meant to cover sort of basic, so you don't have to come complaining to us every time you have a $10 bill. Basic medical expenses, it's allowed for in the personal expense allowance. So Eleanor, I see there's a question about 529 payment plans. You want to jump in there on that one?
Yeah, I can, and I think maybe it'll be collaborative answer with Ashley, but in general, students and families who have 529 plans, most of them issue paper checks to our office. So depending, I know the mail's kind of a little delayed these days with all the mail that's being sent to our homes and that's going out to other businesses and such, but we have staff dedicated to picking up paper checks right now while we're not on campus. When we return, obviously the routing of those and the handling of those will be a little bit quicker, but in general, I hear it takes about 2 to 4 weeks for 529 plan check requests to be processed and sent to us. And then we process them, in a matter of 3 to 5 business days, depending on when they're in our hands, to finally post to student accounts, right? So the timing and the coordinating between when to request those to be cut and checked and sent. Pay special attention to those billing due dates. We publish those for the whole year. So you kind of want to coordinate and think through and budget and time your requests so that we can get them and process them timely within the due dates, right? So Ashley, is there anything that you want to add to that?
No. If you have any questions about 529 plans, you're always welcome to reach out to the Student Services Center, and my staff is super happy to help you.
Let me talk a little bit about student employment opportunities on campus and how that sort of works at Stanford. In normal times, I think this is a campus that is there are lots of opportunities for students to work on campus. Everything from, working in the bookstore, normal retail sort of stuff, to working in a professor's lab, especially as upperclassmen, working at athletic events, working in offices, student affairs, the financial aid office hires students, right? So we all hire students throughout campus. As I said, the minimum wage on campus right now is $15.95 an hour because we're in California. That's the local prevailing minimum wage. So students are able to earn that $3,500 by working 8 to 10 hours a week, which I think is really reasonable. I know a lot of parents get concerned about, expecting their child to work, that it could have an impact on their academic performance. What I hear is they've worked so hard to get here, I'm just going to take care of that part for them. Don't feel like you have to cover that for your student. It's totally doable. And actually, studies have shown that students who work a little bit, and I'm not talking about 40 hours a week, the days or even 20 hours a week, the days of them being able to earn enough to support their room and board expenses are long gone. But I'm saying just enough to cover their own personal expenses, maybe handle their travel to and from campus or for buying their books, not paying towards the bill, but those other expenses outside. It's totally reasonable to ask students to do that. There is a website maintained by our campus BEAM, the Career Services Department, called Handshake, that allows students to search for jobs. Don't worry about finding a job until you come to campus in the fall. Departments aren't ready to hire you yet. We don't have our job postings up, and that'll happen in the fall.
I just wanted to mention that this is being recorded, and we will post it to the financial aid website for you to review.
It'll be on the admit site as well, admit.stanford.edu.
Okay, I think there's a question coming in about credit card payments and whether we accept them on campus. Right now, we do not offer student payments made via credit cards. But I do want to say that even though the pandemic has kind of changed a lot for us, we are kind of actively exploring and entering discussions about what other payment options we can expand out to the campus in the future. So no timeline on that, but that is something that's kind of back on the table to really think about so that we can kind of meet some of your payment needs, in the upcoming terms.
I also saw a couple questions about the campus health service fee. The campus health service fee is a mandatory fee if you live on campus or in the Bay Area. So you cannot waive that fee if you live on campus or in the Bay Area. If you are outside of the Bay Area, then you can reach out to us to see if you qualify for an exemption. The other thing I wanted to note is that the health insurance Cardinal Care is an annual program. So you are in it for the year. And if you do waive out of it, that would be for the year as well.
Let me just add, because this is confusing for a lot of people, the differences between the health services fee and insurance. The campus health service fee, what that does is give you access to Vaden, our on-campus health services. Vaden.stanford.edu. They've got a very detailed website with a lot of information available. So that just gives you access to the doctors, to the mental health care, to the services that are offered through Vaden, and that's mandatory for all students. Health insurance is your catastrophic coverage. That's what, if you have a bike accident and need to go to the hospital, your insurance is going to kick in to pay for that. So everyone is required to have insurance. And Vaden has got great information on their website about comparing your own personal plan to Cardinal Care to make your decisions about whether or not you need to take Stanford's Cardinal Care. Most students who are covered by their parents' plan find that coverage is adequate, but take a look at the information on Vaden's website to make that decision for you. But that's why we talk so much and stress so much this information about waiving Cardinal Care if you don't need it. For students who do need it, if you are receiving full financial aid from us, there is no expected parent contribution. We will add that cost to your cost of attendance and increase your scholarship to cover that cost. For families that do have an expected parent contribution, that contribution was calculated with an understanding that your parents were going to support your health insurance expenses. So that answer gets a little more complicated, but it is something that we can consider that cost in the financial aid program. So I hope that helps to make that a little bit more clear.
Yeah, I think I've been asked to kind of reiterate or talk about billing due dates again. So just to kind of go back, the beginning of the fiscal year, that's for me, the academic year, we start seeing charges as soon as July. You should be extended some enrollment periods or enrollment opportunities to add some courses. And when that happens, your charges are shown in your student account and access around late July. So timing that, moving that forward, your first bill will be issued on or around August 20th. And then it will be due the subsequent month on the 15th. So September 15th will be your first due date. And every month after that, again, billing is on or around the 20th of the month with the following due date for that subsequent month on the 15th, right? So, and if you need more information on the new academic year, the actual dates for each month of bill notifications, as well as when they're due, should be sent, should be prepared in the next few days. We actually outline all the billing dates of when to expect them in email and also when they'll be due.
And let me just say a little bit about outside scholarships and how those feed into this process. So as your outside scholarship checks are received by the financial aid office, if they're made payable to Stanford, which most of them are, and if you have any control over that, we encourage you to choose making them payable to Stanford. What we do is apply those funds to your student's account. Usually we'll divide them in thirds, 1/3 for each quarter. So that's spread out throughout the year. so that the agency is usually asking us to ensure that your child's enrolled before we disperse those funds to them. Sometimes those come in after the billing due dates. If you have told us that you're expecting those funds, they do show up on the student account as anticipated aid. So the billing process will be able to see those funds are still expected, and you won't be charged late fees on those or anything like that. So I know sometimes that process takes some time because agencies want your enrollment certification. Different agencies have different needs for those scholarships. So the financial aid office is happy to work with you on those. Overseas. So my staff member sent me a message saying, if you want a fun one, talk about overseas expenses and financial aid. So yes, hopefully we are going to get back to the place where everybody is able to move around the world and study abroad, which is one of the wonderful opportunities that Stanford offers to students. When students choose to attend one of Stanford's overseas studies programs, they're actually billed their normal tuition through Stanford, so their aid covers their tuition like usual. We do get information from the overseas studies program about who is studying abroad, make adjustments to their financial aid package to recognize the extra costs they may have that quarter for travel, visas, all that kind of stuff that they have to get in order to be able to study abroad. So financial aid is adjusted and covers those kinds of expenses. It gets a little more complicated if you choose to do something that is not a Stanford program. But the Stanford programs are pretty extensive and really exciting opportunities for people to study abroad. So I do encourage all of you to look at those options. And I see one question just popped in. If the parent contribution is 0, can we use outside scholarships to cover the student responsibility so we don't need to find an on-campus job? Yes, you got it. That's exactly what I was saying. For any student, regardless of what your parent contribution amount is, those outside scholarships are a way to manage that student responsibility. If you don't work, we're not going to follow you around and make sure you work the hours you're supposed to work. Your earnings when you're working on campus don't come through the financial aid office. Those go directly to you through payroll, like any normal employee. If you don't do those earnings, you're going to feel like your budget is short, that you don't have enough money, right? But if you've got those outside scholarships, what happens with financial aid, if the amount of aid you're receiving is greater than the charges on your bill, then that amount is refunded to you. This is why both Ashley and Eleanor talked about signing up for direct deposit. That amount is refunded to you. We deposit it directly into your personal bank account at the start of the term to use for all those indirect expenses. If you don't have outside scholarships, typically students are working to cover those indirect expenses. So the other question that we get about outside scholarships, if my total outside scholarships are more than this year, it's $3,500 that we're expecting of students for the student responsibility portion of their award letter. If their outside scholarships are more than that, and they are receiving need-based Stanford scholarship, we are going to reduce that scholarship because we're saying you've got another resource to cover your need, right? So we're allowed to use those funds for someone else. Can we hold those funds for a future year? No, we can't do that. But you, the recipient of those scholarship funds, let's say, it's common for students to have lots of outside scholarships in their first year, but those aren't always renewable for subsequent years. So if you went to the agency and said, hey, can I have this for my sophomore year instead of my freshman year? They will probably say yes. We are required to process anything we receive for the current year in that year. So it's up to you to figure that out with the agencies who have awarded those funds.
I think we have a question about anticipated aid. If we can maybe, Karen, maybe this is a good kind of collaborative answer for us. For me, in my area, when it comes to the bill and what's showing on kind of that courtesy bill, that statement that I provide, the thing that we reiterate is making sure that you've not only gotten a package from Karen's team or her office, but that you've actually gone and accepted the aid that you wish to have or receive, right? So
we automatically accept your scholarship funds for you, so you don't need to do anything to accept those funds. The only thing that would come into play is if you are choosing to use a student loan, you'd need to make sure to accept that loan before that shows up on your student account as anticipated aid.
Thank you, Karen, for kind of being more explicit with that. But I think it's really just that acceptance is really what we need for that to present in your student account, that aid is recognized, it's been approved, accepted, and now it can be expected on the bill. So for example, if tuition, and I'll just throw out just a random number, if tuition was $20,000 and you have accepted anticipated aid, you're expecting $10,000 of aid to post, you should see in your Access Self-Service student account, anticipated aid of $10,000. The calculation you'll need to do for what's due for your payment by that billing due date will be $20,000 less anticipated expected aid. Out-of-pocket payment will then be required of $10,000, right? So going through making sure you've gone through the financial aid checklist, being diligent and thorough with all your to-do list items, making sure that you see the anticipated aid that you expect, right? Reaching out to her office to make sure that you can kind of sort out those discrepancies so that you're not overpaying or paying too much, that you're paying the right amount when it's due, right? So hopefully that was helpful in regards to kind of accepted and anticipated aid.
Yeah, that's right on the money.
I saw a question about how can a student receive financial aid refunds? And so this is, Karen touched on this. It's really, really important that you sign up for direct deposit. That is going to be your fastest, most efficient way to get your refunds. If you don't do that, they will go out via paper check. That process takes a lot longer. But if you have questions about signing up for direct deposit, my staff at the Student Services Center can help you with that.
I see that folks are anxious to get their laptops ready for fall quarter. So that is an educational expense, something that we can consider adding to your cost of attendance. We can make you eligible for a student loan to help cover that cost. You can also use some of your outside scholarship money to cover that cost. So that's another way to manage if your outside scholarships are going to be more than $3,500 and you want to make sure you're getting the full benefit of that. You can use that to purchase a laptop. We ask you not to do that until August, so it's closer to the start of the academic year. And there's a form that we ask you to fill out to let us know about what your expenses are, so we can document that and add it to your cost of attendance. A little bit about communicating with the financial aid office. I saw a question go by about revision requests using our document upload. That's also how you would let us know about your computer expenses. So when you're sending information to the financial aid office, those of you who've been on our website know that we have a document upload process that allows you to securely send documents to us. You know that we collect a lot of personal information like tax returns, et cetera. So the security of your information is really important to us. So that upload process is secure, does get directly to us within 5 minutes of actually submitting the documents through the upload. So you don't need to call us and let us know that you submitted it. You definitely do not need to mail us a paper copy and upload that document, because remember, we're not in the office right now. So mail is is a bad thing and really slow. So when you use our document upload, that gets to us really quickly. Your revision requests that you're submitting right now, let's say, when you filled out your financial aid application back in October, everything was going along just fine with your family, but now somebody's been laid off or job situation has changed and you need to let us know about that. And you're anxious to know about that before you have to make your admission decision. Do upload those revision requests through our portal, through financialaid.stanford.edu. We are working on those as quickly as we can. Typical turnaround time is within a week or two, but all that goes out the window during these last few weeks of April, as we're really scrambling to try to get those responses to you as quickly as possible. Our priority is to respond to people who haven't heard anything from us yet, those who are just applying for financial aid, and people who are submitting their first revision. When you get into your second and third, that gets a little more challenging to get those responses to you as quickly as possible. But do rest assured that we are addressing those as quickly as we can.
Looks like another 529 questions come in. Some concerns with the timing. So, I know this is, first year working out kind of those planning and the kinks of making sure that we're requesting and asking and processing payment timely. We're throwing a lot of due dates out there, but I think it's really important to kind of, when you're starting those talks and trying to coordinate the payments to come in, again, going to the SFS website, SFS Student Financial Services, that's our website, sfs.stanford.edu. That will have the list of billing due dates so that you can, we always recommend to budget and calculate anticipated quarter expenses so that the 529 plans, when you're requesting payments be cut and sent to Stanford, you can try to meet those due dates to avoid late fees. We do assess a 1% late fee for any missed payments each month. If you miss a due date, we will assign 1% of late fees for eligible charges on your bill for the subsequent month. So to avoid that, work through kind of the timing of how long requests take to process, how long it will take to receive for the campus to receive it, and then finally post to the account. So, you can send a copy of the bill once enrollment happens with your student. But again, I think at best, we always recommend if you can calculate that, we try to publish tuition and fees, get that request in early to avoid any late fees, but there are a few ways to go about that.
And just to add, if you have a situation where a payment's coming in late, I encourage you to reach out to the Student Services Center. The best way is through a ServiceNow ticket. And we can work with you and try to understand the situation. But definitely, if you know that payment's going to be coming in late, go ahead and submit a ticket to us.
Great point, Ashley.
And because we've got a few more minutes available, let me talk a little bit more about student loans, which I sort of glossed over during the presentation. For those of you who are interested in student and parent loans, the federal loan programs, do review the information on our website about the loan programs. We'll start processing those applications in August. And you'll find there, if we did not offer you any scholarship funds, if our analysis of your application says that there's no financial need, so we will offer you that option of student loans. But there are others of you who may want to use those student loans to help with the expected parent contribution, for example, because you're eligible for them. That is definitely available to you, but we haven't included those on your initial financial aid award letter. Actually, the best way to tell us that you're interested in taking out a student loan is to just send us an email, financialaid@stanford.edu. And our counselors can add that eligibility for you to your financial aid award. And then you actually go through access to accept the loans that you've been offered. Once you've accepted those loans, then the processing kicks in during August. They're called direct loans because Stanford is actually the ones determining your eligibility. We go directly to the federal government, to the US Treasury, and draw down the funds to credit your student account with those funds. So you never have to set foot in a bank. You don't have to talk to a banker. The federal government makes those funds available to us. Similarly, for parent loans, if you look at our website, you'll find the instructions there for how those are processed. You just need, there's a step where you're letting us know about your interest in using that parent loan. We will process the application, get the funds from the federal government, and apply those as a credit on the student's account. It all works pretty smoothly, knock on wood. The subsidized versus unsubsidized loans is really based on your FAFSA information. So an unsubsidized loan is one where the interest that is accruing while you're enrolled in school, the student is responsible for. You don't have to make payments right away, but you are responsible for that interest that's accruing. Unsubsidized loans are available if you don't have any federal need. If there's not a difference between that federal EFC that is on from your FAFSA and Stanford's cost of attendance and other resources that you're receiving. The financial aid office, and then the subsidized loan is available for people who do have need. If there's a difference between that federal calculation of your eligibility and your cost of attendance and your other resources. Subsidized means that interest that's accruing while you're enrolled in school, you're not responsible for because you have financial need. So the actually US taxpayer is paying your interest for you during that period of time while you're still enrolled in school. So we want to make sure you get the best loan that you're eligible for. So in the financial aid office, we will do that calculation of which loan you're eligible for and make sure to provide you with the loan that is most advantageous to you. Remember that you do not have to accept scholarships from Stanford. We assume you want those, so we've already accepted them for you. All you have to do is enroll. So enrolling in classes is your signal that, yes, I want that financial aid money. Well, we're about at that golden hour. Is there anything else either of you has been burning to answer?
I do not have anything else, but this was a real joy, a treat for me. This was my first admin week with these two. So I just wanted to say congratulations. I hope you enjoy your time here. It's been really nice to be here to answer your questions. Please reach out to the Student Financial Services team if you have any billing or payment needs. Ashley's team is phenomenal. It's such a great team of people to work with through your time here. So thank you for having us. That's all I wanted to say.
Yes, and I look forward to meeting you all, and please, any questions that we didn't answer, feel free to submit a ticket. We will be happy to help you. So welcome.
And we are so excited to welcome you in person in the fall. We have high hopes for in-person fall quarter at Stanford University. We're trying really hard to get as close to normal as we can. So really excited about that. I don't know if any of you saw today, our big announcement is that we are going to be able to hold an in-person commencement for students who are graduating this year. So I think that's a really great sign that we're moving in the right direction and hope to be able to welcome you to campus in the fall. So it's great to hear from all of you. I look forward to seeing you in person, getting to see your faces. And if you have lingering questions, feel free to reach out to the financial aid office, and we will see you all in September. Thank you.